let's see. So he gives us some hints. Masculine and feminine case endings are often similar or even identical, but remember the stem vowel will be different, omicron versus alpha or eta, right? And the nominative and accusative neuter is usually distinct from the masculine. So if we go back here and look at the case endings, do you see how on the new here, these are all the same, right? Just because we mentioned that. But on the accusative plural, the sigma and the sigma are the same on the masculine and feminine, but the neuter is different. Okay. Over here, the iota and the iota are the same, the neuter different. All right, so that's going to be a fairly common thing. Here's something else that's going to be a common theme as we learn these nouns. In the neuter, the nominative and accusative singular are the same as each other. The nominative and accusative plural are the same as each other. So take a look. Notice that in the masculine and feminine forms, their singular versus neuter endings are very different, right? Those are not the same case endings, but notice how in the neuter, these are identical to each other. Nominative singular, accusative singular, same form. So that means there's going to be some ambiguity whenever you find neuter forms. That could be nominative or accusative. You got to pay attention and ask yourself contextually which one of these makes the best sense. If I had, for example, one verb, a noun that's neuter that could be nominative or accusative, but then I already have a nominative masculine noun somewhere else, that nominative masculine noun can only be one thing, subject, right? Which means my neuter noun, if it could have been nominative or accusative, will probably be accusative because I'll need a direct object with that verb, probably.
With the exception of predicate nominative.
Except for predicate nominatives, right? And if it's a predicate nominative sort of situation where the verb is copular, then I need two nominative forms. And then if the neuter noun could be nominative or accusative, I'm going to go with nominative. Exactly. Yeah. So as we go through and we learn our neuter nouns in the third declension, this same rule is going to apply. The nominative and accusative singular forms will be identical, and the nominative and accusative plural neuter third declension nouns will be identical to each other too. All right, let's see. We saw the oi and I endings, so that iota is combining with those stem vowels to create a diphthong there. And in the accusative plural, you have the characteristic omicron and alpha. And you will discover that the vowel sigma combination is typical for the accusative plural. The alpha is common in neuter plural nouns. And like I said, that the alpha sigma of feminine accusative plural, there's really a nu tucked in that falls out. Okay, nominative singular of the article. This is easy to memorize. Feminine and masculine, there is no case ending and no tau. The vowel stands alone, and then we've already got the eta for the first declension, omicron for the second. We know the forms. Neuters, they don't do the same thing. So let me go back and show you what he means here. When you first learn your article, I'll use some blue for these. When you first learned the article, you learned basically these three forms, right? Ha he ta, hoi hai ta. You basically had a choice. Either you start with a vowel, your article, you start with a vowel, and if you do, there's a rough breathing and no accent. Or you start with a tau, and if you do, there's obviously no breathing mark because it's not a vowel, and there is an accent mark. Okay? So on the next sets that we're learning, ton, tain, ta, tus, tas, ta, none of those start with a vowel, do they? None of the accusative articles start with a vowel. So they all start with a tau. It's either you start with a vowel or you start with a tau. Okay, those are your two choices. If you have a tau, you always have to have a what? An accent mark. It's got to be an accent mark. All right, now, the vowel that goes with the tau is always the characteristic vowel of the stem, and then the case ending's added to it. So since second declension articles follow, the masculine second declensions follow since the article that's masculine follows second declension, it's going to have the omicron in its forms. So the ha of the av ha, tan, boy, and then tus, right? You got the omicron there, but it's lengthened to the omicron upsilon diphthong. Here you have alpha or eta, so hey with our graphe hora, and then tain. Now, interestingly, did you see that both of these are going to use tain, no matter whether the noun is a alpha or an eta stem, okay? Just like with hey hora. Even though I have an alpha at the end of hora, the feminine singular article is always an eta first declension vowel stem. And then tain, graphane, tain hora. The eta is first declension. Feminine articles follow the first declension. Hi is like I, the alpha, then the iota case ending. Tas, here I have the tau, not the vowel with rough breathing, but then the alpha stem, just like I've got it over here. And then my ta ergon, we've already seen ta and ta. And now the ta matches the erga endings, right? So I start with the tau, and then the alpha is obscuring what? It's obscuring the omicron that really is part of the second declension stem vowel, right? The omicron is gone. You can't see it. So these case endings that obscure the vowel that is part of the stem, they can be tricky, and you really, those are the ones that you have to focus on the most. When we get to the genitives, the genitive plural case ending is also going to obscure our stem vowel. So this neuter plural is not the only one that's going to do that, but it'll do it a different way. Alrighty, now parsing. When you're parsing a neuter word that is either nominative or accusative, because formally it can be both, Mounts suggests that you list both. For me, that's not a suggestion. If I'm giving you a parsing exercise, you need to list both. That will be part of the right answer, okay? And the reason you need to be able to list both and know that both are possible is because you're going to come across sentences where both are possible, but only one of them is the right one. And if you always assume, say, nominative case is the answer, in a real sentence, accusative might be the right way to analyze it. You're going to be totally lost in what to do with that now. Okay, so be very, very careful. All right, next two noun rules, and this is important for us to memorize. Your noun rules are going to become part of our quizzes here as we learn them. Number two, then. Oh, by the way, who remembers what the first noun rule is? Can you recite it for us? Anybody want to take a stab? Yeah, go for it, Eric.
Second declension nouns. Oh man.
I missed it.
Masculine nouns follow the second declension, and feminine nouns follow the first declension, and consonant nouns follow third declension.
Okay.
Check it out.
Nope.
Nope.
All right.
I know.
It has to do with the word stem. You got to get the word stem in there. Go ahead. You want to tell us, Rachel? What do you think?
So I might not say it in the right order, but the masculine stems, is it that they end with the sigma?
No.
No, the omicron. The omicron. Masculine neuter end with omicron.
Okay. Stop. It really has nothing to do with gender.
First declension.
Noun rule should not say anything
What
about
I think it says is the stems.
Okay, Emma's chomping at the bit. Go ahead, Emma.
Isn't it that the first declension follows first declension stems ending in an alpha or in
eta,
Uh-huh.
and are generally first declension.
Okay, good. Stems ending in alpha or eta are first declension. Then, what else? There's 3 parts.
The omicron
Stems ending in omicron are
generally the second.
second declension. Good.
And
Consonantal stems
are the third.
are in the third declension. Yes. Okay, good.
Why can't we say gender there? Is it because not all
Yeah,
words ending in alpha are feminine?
there are stems that end with alpha or eta that are masculine. And there are some stems that end with omicron that are
That's
feminine.
maddening.
It is maddening. Yes. But no matter what the gender is, they still follow this rule, right? So the word Satan is Satanas. It has a stem ending with an alpha, Satana. It's got a sigma case ending, right? So it follows the first declension even though it's masculine. Okay, so this is why you can't stick gender in the rule.
Okay.
All right. Yes, Emma.
I have,
It's such progressive language.
Uh-huh.
yeah, so with that being said, are like in the charts that we're learning where it's like masculine, second declension, feminine, first declension, neuter, second declension?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a word like that that's like its ending doesn't match its gender
Right.
right out of the gate. But how would we know what to? Do you put the ending on just by what you know the stem is, regardless of gender?
Yeah, basically that's it. So you're learning a 2-1-2 masculine, feminine, neuter kind of pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to add a third declension set of columns as well, right? And we'll assign some genders to that too. But what you're really going to need to know is just what are the case endings that go with the number, right? So first declension, these are the case endings. And once you learn that there's a masculine noun, but that's first declension rather than a feminine noun that's first declension, it's still going to use generally the same case endings you learned for the feminine ones. Okay, there'll be little tweaks.
Yeah.
Really because there needs to be some hint that that first declension noun is really not feminine when the assumption would be that, right?
Okay.
And so what do we learn in feminine first declensions? The case ending is 0, right? But if it's a masculine noun that's first declension, it'll get a sigma on its nominative singular form.
Okay.
So satana becomes satanas.
So knowing the declensions are like is slightly more important than knowing
The gender.
the genders.
Yeah. But it is good to know that most of the time, as we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
they follow this pattern here.
Gotcha.
So this is really just correlative, the second declension and masculine for what we're learning right now. But we need to not conflate this.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if, for example, Satana, which ends with, so it should be like in the first declension because it's not feminine, but it follows the first declension.
Yeah.
But what should we use as article?
Yes, good question. So let's say I had a masculine noun that's first declension. What article is used? The article that's used is always the true gendered article. So if I had Satanas as my noun, but we learned that that's masculine, even though it's got an alpha stem, which is normally feminine, the article is ha. The accusative article would be tan, satanan, and so forth. Okay, so good question. So one of the things that I often say, like my family and I, we love Lord of the Rings, and we not only like the Lord of the Rings books, but we like the Lord of the Rings movies. We think they're just extremely well made. Okay. And one of the things is is that there's this character named Gollum, and he's very conflicted, right? And Frodo, the ring bearer, eventually wins his affection and for a time his loyalty, and he refers to Frodo as master, and he's got this alter ego that he's always arguing with about whether he's going to betray master or not, and he finally. His good side wins for a time, he tells, you know, the bad alter ego to go away. But he says, Master is true. Master cares for us. But then Master betrays him. And then Master is false. Master's tricksy, and so forth. So when I think about the article is good master. The article is your friend. Frodo was Gollum's friend, and master is true. The article is always true. Sometimes our case endings and our declension patterns are not true to what the norm is, but the article is always true. The article will always be the right gender, even if the noun looks like the other gender. All right? So I'll give you another example. The word for road in Greek is hados. Okay? Hados, road, way. The gender of hadas, well, if I were to ask you, like, what gender do you think this is? That's got to look masculine, right? That omicron stem makes it look like a second declension. Well, it is second declension, but it is a feminine noun. So the article I'm going to use with hadas is hey hadas. Okay? The article is always true to the gender, even if it looks like it's the other gender.
Well, unless it's,
We're talking about agreement though. Like we've been talking about how these articles are going to, there's a general agreement with their stem endings, but that's not the case.
Exactly. So when the noun's declension pattern is different from the gender you expect of it, then there will be this lack of vowel stem agreement.
Okay.
But
trust.
the article will still be true to the gender of the noun.
Okay. So
Trust, yeah.
by and large.
Yes. Okay, so John, what were you saying?
I'm saying then trust the article.
That's right. So my other saying is not only is the article true, but the article is your friend.
Got it.
The article is your friend. When we get to third declension nouns, those don't have stems that end with alpha or eta or omicron. They end with consonants. And consonants, well, it doesn't matter what the consonant is. You can't tell the gender of a third declension noun by the consonant it ends with. And so that gender assignment will be completely arbitrary. And then knowing the article and identifying the article that goes with it, if you didn't already know the gender, that article is really going to help you know what gender that noun is.
But what of the situations where the article is dropped from?
Then you're in trouble because your friend has gone away. All right. But here's the other thing. Adjectives also have to agree with the noun's gender, case, and number. So even if the article's gone, if that noun happens to be modified by an adjective, the adjective will also be true to the gender of the noun, even if the noun's gender doesn't look like what it really is.
So in that case, would the adjective give away the gender of the noun?
Yeah, the adjective will match the gender of the noun.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look here at these two noun rules. So we spent a little bit of time reviewing that first noun rule. We got to make sure we get this right, okay? But here's the second one. Every neuter word has the same form in the nominative and accusative. Okay, so that part's the rule. The rest of this is commentary. Every neuter word has the same form in the nominative and accusative. And what he means by that is in the nominative and accusative respectively, right? The nominative and accusative singular, those two forms will be the same as each other. Nominative and accusative plural, those two forms will be the same as each other. But the nominative singular will not be the same as the accusative plural, okay? You guys know what I mean? To go back to this, these two are the ones that he means are the same as each other, right? These two are the same as each other. But the top one is not the same as the fourth one down here, right? So we all get that? Okay, good. And then the third noun rule, oops, there it is. Almost all neuter words end in an alpha in the nominative and accusative plural. You see how we have this alpha here, nominative and accusative plural. Da-da, 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 da-da. Now, this rule is not saying that only nominative and accusative plural nouns are neuter nouns, or nouns are neuter, right? Because we do have words like kehora. Those are words that end with alpha too, don't they? Okay, but that doesn't mean they're neuter. They're not neuter plural. They're not nominative neuter, right? So you got to be careful with that. But if you do have a neuter noun, or really any neuter form, its nominative and accusative plural will almost always end with an alpha. And that'll be good to know.